Hello, everybody. We gather once again as people of Niverville and Steinbach United Churches and others who join us, taking some time away from our daily routine to reflect on our lives and our world as people of faith. And so, as we begin by recognizing our relationship with one another and with all of creation, giving thanks for the gifts of this land which we call home. Our ancestors sought to protect and share this land through the process of treaty making. Treaty 1 includes the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Swampy Cree, Oji Cree, and Dakota people, areas which also become the homeland of the Métis Nation and the dwelling place of those who came later from other lands. We are all inheritors of the treaty agreements. In this season of Epiphany, the season of light, we acknowledge that the principles of the treaties have not always been upheld, and we hold up to the light for all to see and know the mistakes of the past which have caused deep and lasting harm. Let us commit ourselves to the truth-telling that needs to continue to happen as we seek and reconciliation and healing. Whoever we are, wherever we've come from, however our faith journey has led us, we are all beloved inhabitants of this sacred earth. We belong here. As we light this candle symbolizing the presence of the sacred in our midst, we do so in solidarity with all people and all creation and all our relations.
Worship, at its best, opens us to the presence of the holy mystery we call God, and creates the opportunity for a response. That response might be an awe-filled awareness of being gifted with possibilities. Or it might be a sense of deep gratitude for being accepted just as we are. Or maybe our response is to resolve to make changes in our life, to do things differently. Often our response is to be relieved that in the midst of all the chaos and challenge of life, we don't have to go it alone. That we are part of a community that shares certain values and supports each other through the ups and downs of day-to-day existence. I'm Paul DeVal, and today Bill Miller and I and the worship planning team want to share with you a bit of the experience of planning worship for these services. I'm also aware that the readings may be longer than usual, all of which is to say that the service may be longer than we're used to. I hope you'll bear with us. And afterwards, please share your comments. Tell us what works, what inspires, what's not helpful. Worship belongs to all of us, and we all get to have a say. Let us pray. Creator, open our hearts, open our minds, open our lives to the moving of your Spirit. Let us glimpse with your eyes, hear with your ears, love with your heart. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
We are one as we come, joyful to be here in the praise on our lips. There's a sense that God is near. We are one as we sing, as we seek. We are full.
so it's great. It's great that everybody gets to see an opportunity to see how this Brady Bunch appearance to worship meeting comes through, and we've been enjoying seeing new faces, and it just is just like the Brady Bunch was two families learning how to work together. So are these two churches learning how to work together, and I was always just amazed where we have four ministers attending, and they still seem to find place for farmers on the screen. So that was always really warming and in over my head as usual. But so how the hand guides. No one knows I wanted to jump to this story about how Dad brought us home from hockey one night, and we were just youngsters. I would imagine I might have been 12. My brother a year and a half younger. And we got on a stormy winter night within about 3/4 of a mile from home, and the car stalled in a snowdrift, and we were stranded. And so, and the blizzard was on, and so Dad just said, "Let's go." And we had running shoes on and jeans with no long johns, and we got out of the car, and instead of walking up the road 3/4 of a mile and a 1/4 mile east into the yard, and Dad just started across the field and in the black, and we had crossed the fields, and there were different tree rows that he knew where he was going to just by coming up against those trees. He kept the wind in his left shoulder and kept going, and we walked right into the yard. But we got to the first tree row, and he stopped and leaned up against the tree, and we looked up, and of course we were tethered with the blanket that we had from the back seat. And we looked at that and said, "What's the matter, Dad?" And he just said, "Well, just not as young as I used to be." And he walked us right into the yard.
Oh.
That's my story.
Yeah. It came up so often that we found that we had to address it in some way. So we decided that after a year of talking, probably mentioning it once a month or so, that it was time to actually tell the congregation about how we saw this, team working together. And so, yeah, it's been a year that we've been meeting like this. And for me, we each have our strengths and our gifts, and for me, the strength that this working on this team has given me is hard to even describe. Many of you know that I'm on a grief journey of my own right now, with having lost Dennis in just October. And while he was so sick, I took some time away from this group, and always found support in my email, or on a chat, or a phone call. And now that he's gone, I'm back to the worship team, and I'm finding that it gives my life some semblance of normalcy. I've always found worship preparation a time of becoming church, and for me, this group has become my church on Tuesday mornings, and so the Spirit is at work in just amazing ways. And if we can bring some of the collaboration that happens in this team work into the collaborating between Steinbach and Niverville, then that's a really good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And as you said, Judy, there are 8 of us around this group table.
around this Zoom meeting. And 8 of us bring many gifts. Every single person around this group, whether they're clergy, as Bill mentioned, or whether we're lay, has had a moment, a gem that we have dropped into the circle, have brought wisdom and ideas to the worship. And in planning worship, we learn and go deeper than I experience on a Sunday morning. Mm-hmm. And it's those gifts that we each bring and value, the voices that we hear, that is such a wonderful thing as we sit and meet each Tuesday morning.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just jump in and say that as a worship planner for many years, often sitting in a room by myself, trying to come up with ideas for Sunday morning, and sometimes not coming up with them. And this has been such a gift to be with a bunch of other people who generate ideas and get my mind going. So I might suggest something, somebody else thinks, well, what if we did it this way instead? Or so we kind of bounce off one another, and it creates this that I never experienced when I was just sitting in a room by myself trying to come up with ideas. I guess another thing, like Judy, last winter, I was involved in chemotherapy treatments for much of the time. And I couldn't go out very many places or do very much. And because I could just sit at home and be part of this, it allowed me to be involved in doing something that I enjoy doing, which is worship planning and being with people. And I hope that's the same for other people who are at home and couldn't get out with our Sunday morning, or whenever you watch it, not always on Sunday morning, that you can still be involved. And we try to include other people with readings and theme times and other people who could be at home and participate when we couldn't get out. One other thing is I've been challenged to do things I could have never imagined doing technologically, making videos and all of that kind of thing. Part of me said, oh, I can't do that. I'm too old. And then I thought, well, there's people older than me here who can do it. So I guess I better learn how to do it. And I did, even with my old equipment. My old brain and my old equipment managed to find ways to learn new tricks, new skills, new ways of doing worship. And so that's been really interesting. And those things will last, I think, long after. Hopefully the time will come when we don't have to do it this way, if the pandemic ever ends. But some of those things we can carry into whatever the future holds.
I think the collaboration is phenomenal, and I think that this group is fairly unique, and many families could learn from us in how to get along by sharing ideas and how to build on an idea, as you said, Jan, to take an idea and build on it from other people's perspective. So that's, I am just blessed by meeting every Tuesday morning with this wonderful group of people, and I come out hopefully a better person and certainly a more knowledgeable person.
I would just like to say I agree with what everyone's been saying, and for myself, being just one of the great unwashed in the layperson field, and they may all be aspiring to higher things like being the Brady Bunch. I kind of feel I'm more like on the Muppet Show, like I'm the Muppet. I'm the Muppet. I'm not sure which one though, but it has certainly taught me to listen instead of waiting for my turn to talk. I listen to what people are saying, and this has given me a chance to think about the direction that we're all taking, and why we're doing it, and who we're doing it for. It's been an amazing experience having never been involved in worship planning. It is a form of worship on its own, and we're doing it why we're doing it.
You know, one of my favorite words in the New Testament, that little section where Jesus is talking, he says, where 2 or 3 are gathered, there I am. It gets, among them, the word there is, en meso, is in between. So in the space in between, us, in the space that both separates us and unites us, is where Christ lives, where that word lives. And I think in worship planning and all these things, I think we were really, this is where it's, I think in some ways it's supposed to happen. That it's in the encounter, it's in the ideas, it's in somebody coming up with an idea, think, well, that's pretty crazy, and then it swirls around and it becomes wonderful in your mind. And so, I think in that interaction is the energy, and like Jen, others, when you're doing it on your own, you have to kind of split up your personality and try the best you can. But
as a person who has been a ministry leader for some years, and like Jan has spent endless hours in a room trying to plan worship, this is one of the things I know is that we drop into a community midstream, because they have a history and a tradition, and as clergy we have to learn very quickly what are the hymns that we can pick with impunity, and which are the ones that are pushing people to challenge new learning. But it's the self image or the self-awareness. We're talking these days about the body of Christ, about the church as being a body consisting of many parts. And today we're hearing brand new metaphors. There's the metaphor of the church as the Brady Bunch and the church as the Muppet Show. And these are all new awarenesses for me, which I would not have had a chance to hear about had it not been for gathering with the group here. So the gift for me is that we have been able to hear the different traditions of the two congregations. We have been able to amalgamate them and massage them and create something new. And the real unsung heroes are the people who are not part of this group, but who we enlist week to week to read scripture and to lead theme times and to lead music, and the ones who participate around the YouTube and the Zoom and give us back their feedback. So we're grateful for the bigger community that we have enlisted in the service of this new effort.
And I think the ones we want to also thank are all of you that are watching, for being patient and accepting and joining with us as we go on this journey. I want to go back to Bill's first story about being in the snowstorm and getting out of the car and walking, not knowing where they're going. That's a little bit how it was when we started this, what we dubbed the Epiphany Project. We set out not really knowing how or what we were going to do or where it was going to take us. It's a little bit like how we've started off with talking to each other, Niverville and Steinbach, about cooperative ministry. We're in the snowstorm. There's no pattern. There's no set structure or no set way of going forward. And yet we have set out, we've worked together, we've created community, we've been sensitive to the uniqueness of each other's. We've got to that tree where your dad stopped, and we've made it this far. We're not quite there yet. We're still working, we're still going, we're still learning, we're still needing each other. As you said, with that blanket, we're tethered together in some aspects. But we're going forward, and we're going to get right into that yard. I just feel it. So thanks to each of you around this circle, but thanks to each of you, all of you who are watching and making this possible with these two communities that are joining together in such a wonderful way. I do think that's what our faith is telling us to do and be about. So thanks, folks.
Dance with the Spirit early in the morning, walk with the Spirit throughout the day long, work and hope for the throughout the day long. Work and hope for the new life upon, and listen to the Spirit to show you the way.
The season of Epiphany is the time when we read of the beginnings of Jesus' ministry and begin to see what it is that he's doing. It's also a time for each of us to be attentive to new awareness in our own lives. What am I missing? What would I like to do differently? Is there something I would like to learn? Do I have a gift that can be of service to my church, my neighbors, my community? The minister and author Frederick Buechner put it this way: the place God calls you to is the place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. If something is stirring for you, share it with someone you trust. These days, everything is changing. Anything is possible.
There was a child in Galilee who wandered wide along the sea, a holy child alone was she, and they called her Dreaming Mary. And she dreamed, rejoicing in her Savior. She dreamed of justice for the poor. She dreamed like kings oppressed no more. When she dreamed of Dreaming Mary, one holy day an angel came, with voice of wind and eyes of flame. He promised blessed would be her name, and he spoke to Dreaming Mary. Then she spoke, rejoicing in her Savior. She spoke justice for the poor. She spoke the kings oppressed no more. When she spoke the Dreaming Mary. And did she dream about the sun? Did he speak the angel on? We only know God's will was done in the Son of Dreaming Mary. Then she prayed, rejoicing in her Savior. She taught in justice for the poor. She taught the kings oppressed no more. When she taught at Dreaming Mary. Then Jesus grew in Galilee. They wandered wide along the sea. Now we come to you and me to dream with Dreaming Mary. And we dream, rejoicing in our Savior. We dream of justice for the poor. We dream like kings oppressed no more. As we dream with Dreaming Mary.
Good morning. Our first reading is from Nehemiah 8, 1-3, 5-6, and 8-10. When the 7th month came and the Israelites had settled in their towns, all the people assembled as one man in the square before the water gate. They told Ezra the scribe to bring out the book of the law of Moses, which the Lord had commanded for Israel. So on the first day of the 7th month, Ezra the priest brought the law before the assembly, which was made up of men and women and all who were able to understand. He read it aloud from daybreak till noon as he faced the square before the water gate in the presence of the men, women, and others who could understand. And all the people listened attentively to the book of the law. Ezra opened the book. All the people could see him because he was standing above them, and as he opened it, the people all stood up. Ezra praised the Lord, the great God, and all the people lifted their hands and responded, Amen, Amen. Then they bowed down and worshipped the Lord with their faces to the ground. They read from the book of the law of God, making it clear and giving the meaning so that the people could understand what was being read. Then Nehemiah the governor, Ezra the priest and scribe, and the Levites who were instructing the people said to them all, "This day is sacred to the Lord your God. Do not mourn or weep." For all the people had been weeping as they listened to the words of the law. Nehemiah said, "Go and enjoy choice food and sweet drinks, and send some to those who have nothing prepared. This day is sacred to our Lord. Do not grieve, for the joy of the Lord is your strength."
Our reading today is from 1 Corinthians 12, verses 12 to 31. For just as the body is one and has many members, and all the members of the body, though many, are one body, so it is with Christ. For in the one Spirit we were all baptized into one body, Jews or Greeks, slaves or free, and we were all made to drink of one Spirit. Indeed, the body does not consist of one member, but of many. If the foot would say, "Because I am not a hand, I do not belong to the body," that would not make it any less a part of the body. And if the ear would say, "Because I am not an eye, I do not belong to the body," that would make it not less a part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would the hearing be? If the whole body were hearing, where would the sense of smell be? But as it is, God arranged the members in the body, each one of them as he chose. If all were a single member, where would the body be? As it is, there are many members, yet one body. The eye cannot say to the hand, "I have no need of you," nor again the head to the feet, "I have no need of you." On the contrary, the members of the body that seem to be weaker are indispensable, and those members of the body that we think less honorable we clothe with greater honor, and our respectable members are treated with greater respect, whether our more respectable members do not need this. But God has so arranged the body, given the greater honor to the inferior member, that there may be no dissension within the body, but the members may have the same care for one another. If one member suffers, all suffer together with it. If one member is honored, all rejoice together with it. Now you are the body of Christ and individually members of it, and God has appointed in the church first apostles, second prophets, third teachers, then deeds of power, then gifts of healing, forms of assistance, forms of leadership, various kind of tongues. Are all apostles? Are all prophets? Are all teachers? Do all work miracles? Do all possess gifts of healing? Do all speak in tongues? Do all interpret? But strive for the greater gifts, and I will show you a still more excellent way.
Our second reading is from Luke 4, verses 14 to 21. Jesus returned to Galilee in the power of the Spirit, and news about him spread through the whole countryside. He taught in their synagogues, and everyone praised him. He went to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, and on the Sabbath day he went into the synagogue, as was his custom. And he stood up to read. The scroll of the prophet Isaiah was handed to him. Unrolling it, he found the place where it is written, "The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he has anointed me to preach good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to release the oppressed, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." And then he rolled up the scroll, gave it back to the attendant, and sat down. The eyes of everyone in the synagogue were fastened on him, and he began by saying to them, "Today this scripture is fulfilled in your hearing." And here ends the readings.
And Jesus
The book of Nehemiah contains the story of the return of the Israelites from exile in Babylon. They returned in cohorts, according to many scholars, as many as 3 different groups. We're told that the exile lasted 70 years, long enough for the original exiles to have died, and the returnees to be grandchildren and great-grandchildren. They hadn't wasted their time. Removed from the temple, they could not celebrate regular temple rituals or sacrifices, so the priests and scholars took time to begin organizing the stories of the faith and teaching them to the people. But they never gave up the desire to return home and rebuild the temple, restore Jerusalem, and get things back to normal. In today's reading, we hear of the rebuilding of the temple and the reading of the word. Now, because of the lack of materials or too few laborers, the temple is a shadow of its former self and doesn't meet the expectations the people have nurtured. The first draft of the new book of the Torah is read at the Watergate. For reasons that are not really explained, the people weep. They don't rejoice at hearing this word. I think I know some of what they felt. How many times have we felt on the verge of returning to something resembling normal, only to be caught in a new wave of COVID and returned to pandemic mentality? How many times have we rejoiced to meet with friends and family in person, only to have to return to routines of caution and protection of the vulnerable? That's all of us, really. And have you ever said, when the pandemic is over, we're going to have one big potluck supper and invite everybody, only to find we're subject to more restrictions? In the midst of the disappointment of the Israelites, the passage ends this way. And Nehemiah, who was the governor, and Ezra, the priest and scribe, and the Levites who taught the people, said to all the people, "This day is holy to the Lord your God. Do not mourn or weep." For all the people wept when they heard the words of the law. And then he said to them, "Go your way, eat the fat and drink sweet wine, and send portions of them to those for whom nothing is prepared. For this day is holy to our Lord. Do not be grieved, for the joy of the Lord is your strength." In spite of unmet expectations, regardless of frustrations and challenges, this day, today, is holy to the Lord. So eat the fat and drink the wine and hold on to the blessings that are yours and share with those who have nothing prepared. Some 500 years later, Jesus opened a scroll in the synagogue, a later edition of that first draft of the Hebrew Scriptures, and he spoke to a group of poor peasants living under Roman occupation. "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim release to the captives, and recovery of sight to the blind, to let the oppressed go free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." And he didn't do it on his own. He gathered a group of apprentices, taught them and prepared them to share the news. They became the Corinthian body of Christ, a community where everyone used their gift to benefit all. So, are we tired of COVID? Sure. Is January a tough month for some of us? Yes, it is. And this day is holy to the Lord, a time to celebrate blessings and share good news with the poor. Thanks be to God. Amen.
And now, once again, some words from one of my favorite poets, Rilke. He writes, "To whom in the end do we offer ourselves? To the stranger who misunderstands us, to the other whom we never found, to the ones who could not free us, to the winds of spring which we could not hold, and to silence so easy to lose. In this moment, in your specific context, what is it that you wish to offer? I invite you to offer it now." Let's pray. Take that which we can offer God, and that which we wish to, and would if only we could unclasp our hands. Take the intent of our hearts, so much more reliable than our thoughts or actions. Take our moments and our days, let them flow in ceaseless praise. Hallelujah.
One elder said one time, if you want to understand life, come with me into the forest, come with me to the land, and I will teach you about life. And that was a profound truth, that our ancestors understood that the land was the teacher and the greatest teacher for all of us.
We're at Turtle Lodge. We're out here for a cultural retreat, and I'm kind of excited about it. This is my first time. It's actually pretty fascinating.
It was really nice to have young people see what we've done from time immemorial and feel safe about it.
Whenever I witness young people like yourself that come to the lodge, to learn about who you are, it really fills my heart.
I think the key message that I received this weekend was that youth are the future and that it's important that we do pass on the knowledge, because elders aren't always going to be here forever. That's how the way of life survives. It just keeps going and going.
By learning more about yourself, you'll be able to know where you're going forward in your future.
I healed a lot, and I've only been here 3 days, 2 nights.
I think it's a really good experience for the youth to have this opportunity to be able to step away from all of the distractions inside the city.
I feel like a connection to this place though after everything we did here.
It's the first place I literally feel like I can express who I am instead of keeping it bottled up. And I will miss being at the lodge a lot.
I'm really thankful for being here. And this whole thing just opened up my eyes and makes me want to change my life for the better, for my mom.
And now, let's pray. Oh, dear God, why do you keep inviting us to do stuff we don't want to do? In today's Bible reading, the people were invited to enjoy themselves, but also then to send portions to those for whom nothing is prepared. To send to those who are not prepared. And so we need to do something, God, that most of us don't want to do. We're going to pray for those who are intentionally unvaccinated, the anti-vaxxers. And we're going to ask you to bless them. Because, to be honest, many of us find that idea to be almost intolerable. To be truthful, many of us don't really want them to be blessed. Sometimes we want them to get sick, like really sick. Maybe not die, but really sick. Or want them to pay for their health care, or be the last into the ICU, or be denied antivirals. We hate that about ourselves. But for many of us, if we're honest, these emotions are easier to access than more kind and loving emotions, or even a prayer for blessing for them. There are enemies, God. And of course then, as our enemies, they are the ones that we're called to love, to bless. And so we do ask you to bless them. Anything less creates toxins within us that we don't want. And to be honest, God, we have this problem. This problem with anyone who does things we don't like, things we don't want them to do. Family members or close friends who make a mess of their lives, and then just when it seems all stable, they make another bad choice. Bless them too, God. People we love with addictions who seem to become free only to fall back into addiction, drinking, drugs, shopping, sex, porn, whatever. And then they phone us for support, and something burns inside us. Bless them too, God. Church leaders we don't like in positions of power. Bless them, God. Politicians who seem to pander only to their base, and the basest of the base. Bless them too. The people who are anti-gay, anti-abortion, or perhaps pro-choice, anti-immigrant, prejudiced, accusatory, judgmental. Whoever it is that so gets under our skins, bless them too, God. Bless all of them. Oh, how we wish we could really believe these words, feel these words. Regardless, we pray them anyway. We ask you to bless them partially because we no longer want to be controlled by our own controlled issues. We no longer want to be imprisoned by our incessant need to evaluate. We no longer want to determine who should get the blessing and who shouldn't. And again, in our reading today, we're reminded that your joy is our strength. Well, many of us have felt rather short of joy lately, God. Maybe it's because we thought joy should come from our circumstances, from changes, from conditions that we think of as favorable, instead of simply coming from you, independent of any and all circumstances. Yeah? Such thought feels lofty to us, God. So can you help us to make practical application of these truths? Because our world needs more joy. Our families need more joy. Our churches, too. We do. And even the anti-vaxxers, religious extremists, and other fundamentalists, and even those profiteering pharma execs, we all need your joy. Your joy. Just as we need your compassion, your clarity, your comfort. This is what our world needs. Our hearts need. And so now, in these next few minutes of silence, we link our minds and our intentions in prayer. For any and all we know who are needing blessing, needing healing, needing some kind of restoration. Take all of these thoughts, God. Take even the thoughts that can never seem to come on command when we try to squeeze our prayers into the silence. Take the intentions of our hearts. Hold all of them. We offer these things to you in prayer because we've learned to trust you. And because of Jesus, who showed us that we can pray together and form one body, one voice. Now, the poet George Ella Lyon wrote a poem based on the Lord's Prayer, set in her own context of Appalachia. I've taken the liberty of shortening it a bit, and so if you're willing, I invite you to join in these words with me.
Our Mother, who art in the kitchen cooking us up,
hallowed may we see all that is your kingdom here delivered into our hands. Your will in children and trees leaping out on earth as if it were heaven. Give us this day bread we could feed the world, and snatch us up if we try to swallow it all ourselves. Don't forgive us till we learn it is all forgiving. And heed us not if we believe you look like us and love us best. And deliver us from this evil. For yours is this kitchen we call universe, and our little sphere with its powerful glory of rainforests and oceans, mountains in boa mist forever, if we don't blow it up, and ever if we don't tear it down. Amen. And all women.
We are one as we hear, heart and hand unite. In the word we receive, there's a sense that God is light. We are one as we live, as we love, we are loved, and we think just as in God's ways as we move together from this place.
Well, this service is now coming to an end, but
It's now that the real service begins. When we go out of here, in the living, that's where it really matters. And so as you go, know that the Spirit of our God is upon you. I know it may not always feel that way. And she has anointed you. I know. What was she thinking? In order that you and I can truly bring good news to the poor, release to those held captive, sight to those whose vision has been broken, and freedom to those pressed down. The task is yours and mine, seriously. But fortunately, the capacity is hers. Thanks be. And so let's go out and actually live as God's children. For we have the blessing of the living God, Jesus the Christ, and the Spirit with us today and always. Amen.
We are one as we hear, heart and hand unite. In the word we receive